Hi, my name is Sue Manning, and I would like to take a few moments to share with you how the adoption of the Common Core state standards has negatively impacted my child. This is Colin. He's almost 9 years old, and developmentally, he's about 5. He has central auditory processing disorder and severe receptive and expressive language disorder. He has dyslexia, dysgraphia, and dyspraxia, just to name a few. For 3 years, we had him enrolled at Berry Elementary School. I met some of the greatest people I've ever known there. People who loved him and who were nearly as invested in his success as we were. But as I watched him fall farther and farther behind, I also watched them struggle more and more to meet his needs. Not because they weren't capable of doing so, but because they were being increasingly hamstrung by new standards, curriculum, and testing requirements. In our final IEP meeting, I witnessed a system that created a 10-minute discussion of his academic goals and a 50-minute discussion of what accommodations would be necessary for testing him. After that meeting, his teacher, who is no longer employed by Charles County Public Schools, hugged me and whispered into my ear, "Please don't bring him back." You see, this was the teacher who had watched my son go from a happy child to one whose hands shook when he unpacked his backpack in the mornings, who called me crying because he had so much anxiety when she pulled him out for testing that she felt it was cruel to do it anymore. And the same teacher who watched a delayed but confident child go from participating and trying what his peers were doing to being a child beaten down by the knowledge that he couldn't keep up. And so I withdrew my son to homeschooling. He has thrived at home, not because I'm a wonderful teacher, I'm not, but because he has been allowed to be a square peg instead of being repeatedly expected to fit into a round hole. The Common Core application to students with disabilities states in part, some students will require substantial supports and accommodations, but should retain the rigor and high expectations of the Common Core state standards. Furthermore, Common Core standards require even children with documented learning disabilities to be taught and tested on grade-level content, regardless of where they are developmentally. This is like requiring a kid in a wheelchair to be tested on his ability to jump rope. No one wishes more than I do that expecting my son to perform at grade level would be enough to make it happen. I want him held to high standards that will ultimately provide him with the highest chance for success. But I want those standards to be developed by people who know him, and I want them to be realistic for him. I understand the good intentions behind the concept of Common Core, but this system not only didn't work for our child, it hurt him. And even though he is now beyond its reach, hundreds of families in Charles County are still dealing with the fallout for their own special needs children. I'm not here tonight for my child, I'm here for theirs. I would like to finish with a statement of fact and ask you to consider it. You can support Common Core either actively or passively, or you can support successful education for all children, but you can't do both. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Miller.